Morning, Marge.
Very quickly, this was the financial report. Yeah, at the end of June. I printed this off extra. I usually just give you the little guy, but I'll give you one of those too. But this way you can see. You can see how we compared to the budget. As you can see, our revenues were up, and that was mainly due to the fact that Elderbridge did give us reallocation funding for fiscal year 11 that we didn't receive until July of 11. So that was in the amount of $56,000. Elderbridge has been very generous with Carroll County these last few years with reallocation funds. But I did want to point out that this year, for fiscal year 12, we only received $3,110. And I talked to Donnell Dearling, who is the head of this Elderbridge agency, this 20-county area that they serve in. And it had nothing to do with us. It's just that they were retaining what little money that they did have, looking, you know, not knowing what's going to happen with the election and so forth. And if sequestration does go into effect July 1, we're all going to get hit, you know. That bill passed in 2011 that there should have been a bipartisan deficit reduction plan put in place, and of course there was not. We all know that. And so I received an email the other day that's saying part of that Congress passed in 2011 was that then it would go into sequestration July 1 or January 1, which is to reduce the deficit by 1.6 trillion over the next 10 years, and many programs, including public health overall, will be one of them that really does get hit. So how that's going to affect everybody and how it trickles down to the local level, nobody knows yet. Depends due the election and, you know. But it ended up that we had asked for $258,000 from the county. We used $179, which put back or left in the general fund $79,000 this year. In the years since 1994, when we became the freestanding agency, to date we have not used our tax asking over the years to the tune of $500,000. I've always undervalued revenues because of situations like this with the Elderbridge. We never know what we're going to get. We have really no control over any of our revenues. And of course, grant funding has become less and less. The contract for Elderbridge for fiscal year 12-13 is $35,600, which is the same as last year. In this year's budget, I had put $20,000, so we're okay there. Iowa Department of Public Health did cut the funding again. We're going to receive, I think, about $45,000 from the grant. We've had the frail elderly, the waiver programs. There too, they seem to be up in the air. That's a Medicaid program. And the people we've had on the waiver, a lot of them have either gone to the nursing home or passed away. And so as you can see, we did not meet budget, especially in the frail elderly. Again, we have no control over those. Those were people we were seeing at 100% county funded service, and then they were able to get on the waiver, and so we do get some Medicaid funding from them. There's supposed to be an increase from Medicaid for those services, but now with this other, I'm not sure. I don't think anybody knows what anything's going to be. If you look at that too, we came in under budget on salaries, mainly due to the fact when Linda Palmer retired in It's been over a year. We did not replace her. Now, in this past spring, Marj Testroet, who was a 4/5 time employee, retired at the end of June. And we did hire a full-time person in Coon Rapids to cover that area. And then another employee has dropped from full-time to 3/5 time. Our census is down. If you look in the little book on the inside, you can see we did provide 13,733 hours of direct service. The total clients served is 175. Total clients served last year was 174. So basically that's the same, but we are not spending as much time. That's twofold on the contract with skilled nursing side. With less invasive surgeries and so forth, people aren't requiring as much, even when they go home, or for as long the cares are. There aren't the big wound issues like there have been, and so we don't need to stay as long, and they are physically stronger even to help with their own personal cares. Homemaker, we dropped the elderly people. It isn't so much, we're seeing more mental health clients through case management and so forth that need some guidance as far as doing their homemaking issues and things like that, but we don't spend the time like we did, for the people that were really, where they were close to going to the nursing home. People are going to assisted living. I think there are more people that have funding. They're not just living on Social Security. They have some retirement. They're going closer to family, or families are moving in with them. So we are still busy, but as you said, because the census is down, we've been able to, without having to lay someone off, bring down the size of our staff as well. Oh, and we did provide 1,354 hours to mental health clients that the county funded to the amount of $44,000. I cannot bill anybody for those, even though the referrals come from case management. We cannot bill Title 19 for homemaker service.
How many hours did you say it was?
It was 1,354. There's an average of 15, well, that's a little high, even 12 clients, I would say, average over the year. Other clients are on waivers and so forth, but these people, they're on title, but they're not either old enough to be on a waiver, or they're, there's intellectual disabilities waiver, there's a handicap waiver, but to meet the criteria to be on those waivers, some people fall through.
Very good, Marge. I had like 5 notes here I was gonna ask you, but you pretty much covered everything.
I know I kind of don't look, and you guys.
The only other thing I was gonna add,
See?
you might notice on the mileage there.
Oh, yeah,
They're down quite a bit from what they really anticipated, and we kind of talked about that at the Board of Health meeting.
There again, since we did hire the person in Coon Rapids, we were having to send someone in from either Glidden or Manning or whatever to cover those people. Now we have someone living right in Coon Rapids, so that has cut down substantially. We're not having to go to all the outlying communities like we used to do. We have one lady in Arcadia. We used to go to Breda. We don't go there. We're not in Lanesboro right now. We're in Litterdale for 2 people. So we group those and go then, but Halbert, Templeton. We have one man in Dedham. And we had one in Willie. He's now moved to Carroll. So, and we used to go out in the country itself. Right now, we don't have clients up there. Not saying we might in the future, but it just, and I know people have asked me, the Board of Health asked me too, is it because other agencies are taking over or what? And I don't think so. They just aren't out there. We have sat down too, and of elderly people living in those communities. They're not there. A lot of those communities now are bedroom communities for younger people working in Carroll that they're driving in.
Did you want to share your cost report then?
I didn't bring one for everybody, but, yeah, what we do, what the Idaho Public Health requires at the end of each year is that you have to take your total cost and divide it by the number of direct service hours you provide to come up with a cost. You know, it's just like in a factory, you know, you gotta produce so many widgets and that's how you do it. So, of course, our total expenses, excuse me, $476,000, and divide that by this 13,733 direct service hours, brings it up to 34,717, $34 an hour for a cost, which is below other agencies. This year, our cost is $33 an hour, and some of that difference is because this year, we had the uniforms in there, which we do every other year. So that cost was in there. There was a pay raise this past year.
But the cost of this report is $34.72.
Yes, the cost at the end of,
Well, you said this year.
well, I,
I want to make sure I had it
right. For fiscal year
11,
11-12 would be the 34, and we have to round it down, the state auditor says, so we'd be charging $34.68.
I don't know how they round it down.
Because the state
3
auditor
cents.
clamped on them, we have to round it down so it's divisible by 4, because we do not go any smaller than 15-minute increments to bill.
Quarter hour.
Same thing they have.
Otherwise, you're chasing pennies all over the place. So you need to always make something that's divisible to 15, because we only charge for the time that we're in the home. We don't do this minimum hour bit like a lot of the private agencies do and so forth. State will not allow us to do that. So this is also the figure this cost is what, which is almost a moot point, because Elderbridge has a cap of $30 an hour. That's all we can bill on the waiver. We don't get that money from Iowa Department of Public Health. We run out of grant funds way before the end of the year, so what's the difference whether we bill at 34 or 22? We're gonna run out of money. The waivers too are all set by Medicaid. They only provide $20 an hour. One is $19.81 an hour, one is $20.20 an hour. So I know of agencies that have gotten out of taking care of waiver clients because you cannot meet your costs. So we subsidize that with county tax dollars. We do not solicit those clients. Those are people, as I said, prior to that time, prior to them getting on the waiver, we were providing service with county tax dollars at 100%. So, you know, sometimes the aides do, well, why aren't we out advertising, you know, if our census is down? And I said, because that isn't what this is for. This is county taxpayers taking care of those people that cannot do for themselves, that can't afford private. We're not out to be in competition with the private agencies that are in town. And yet we do it, you know, as frugally as we can. And when Deb and Luann go out to admit people, they make sure it's for things that they are unable to do, not just that they don't want to do.
Marge, a moment ago, Bill Fisher was here and gave an ambulance update, and he had brought up, are you aware of something that is currently under consideration under Obamacare that would halo some of the public health, home health, and ambulance services? He had brought it up to our attention that what they're trying to do is replace the fee-for-service and put everything under one administrative halo, so to speak. Have you heard anything about that?
Not as far as our program. They have always pushed regionalization, you know, and I know even with the emergency management, you know, Marcia was talking about that the funding next year, it will be in coalitions that will take care of things. It won't be individual agencies. You know, they have always which that state took back the food program.
Cooperative billing, I think was the term you used, is that true?
Yeah, and how that would work is,
Based off of quality of services, which
oh, good luck, you
And then it
know.
got pretty thin after that.
As we have grumbled too, we do double the paperwork and never get another buck to take care of anybody. But to me, this is all justification on the higher levels, because they're worried about when the election comes, they might get out of a job. So gee, if we have to monitor all this stuff, you know, you can't get rid of us. We have seen more and more and more needless paperwork and,
Just one example is the requirement now that the Board of Health is required to meet 6 times.
Yes.
It's absolutely ridiculous. We met the other night and we just had Marge on the agenda. I mean, it's, and the board members are volunteers, you know, and now we're
We have
asking
other
them, instead
things
of
to
coming
do.
4 times a year, they gotta come 6 times a year.
yeah, this is supposed to provide, you know, the county with better quality healthcare.
Ridiculous.
And, no, that was mandated by the State Board of Health, that instead of meeting quarterly, they must now meet at a minimum of 6 times a year. Many counties meet monthly. And to what end, I don't know. If you're gonna micromanage here and you're micromanaging there, who's out doing any work? I mean, if all we're gonna do is micromanage, that's ridiculous. Any other questions?
Anything else from Marge?
As always, a good report. Yep.
Thank you.
You did a great job,
Appreciate your
Marge. All of
support.
Keep up the good work.
Everybody's out there, yeah, I won't bring up our little problems. The little bugs are running around, so.
Speaking of winter's coming, do we need to get a load of Randy grease?
I've already taken care of it.
Okay.
Randy and I talk all the time.
Okay, good.
I told him, don't worry about supervisors, just call me.
That's good, just.
No, Randy is superb.
Tell him not to hit our new sign.
Just tell them just put in a winter order like we did last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done that for years.
Oh, I
because-
just only worked once so far, right?
Well, see, the first year Paul wasn't here. All of a sudden it snows and so, you know, I called Randy and he said, well, nobody from the county called me. And I said, well, I'm calling you. I said, from now on, don't worry about it. You know, we'll work on it. But, as I say, Randy, he won't come if there's a skiff out there. You know, I mean, it better be pretty cumbersome for him.
He knows.
Oftentimes he'll leave his bill under the rock, and he's got a little rock he puts out in front of the front door if I happen not to be there on a little piece of paper, but no, he's very conscientious, and I can call him and say, hey, it's drifting in again out here, depending on how the wind's going, you know, and there is a problem there with that slope, and then it comes around the side of the building, and it can get deep pretty quick. But he'll come down and sweep through there, and he appreciates that you let him take out the railroad ties that were around, you know, that was a pain in the butt, because he never knew where they were in the wintertime, and then so he can drag that snow out farther. That one year when it was so bad, now last year, of course, wasn't anything. But no, Randy takes care of us. He's always there before 8, and, you know.
Thank you, Marge.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Sprague, you have a question for Marge?
Yes, 2 more remarks and I'm out of here.